Hello fellow gaming minions, I am Doctor Virtual and welcome back to my channel. I welcome you back wonderfully and hopefully you're having a wonderful day. Now it is time for the next video and it is a review and we are...
Hey, I heard you talking about the Legend of Zelda. Can I get in on this? It's MasterSwordMusic in the building. Let's go.
Hey, TJ the Gamer or MasterSwordMusic. Welcome into this review. Obviously, we can't have this review without you, bro. And we're definitely going to have a good time speaking about one of the most legendary video games of all time. And that is Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time.
Ocarina of Time. It's Ocarina of Time. So, that's all we need to say about that, huh?
Yes. I'm rather excited to be talking about this game myself. How about you, TJ? How about yourself?
Ocarina of Time is one of the greatest games ever made. So obviously, you gotta have the greatest rapper of all time.
Yep, no arguments here. Gaming minions, without further ado, welcome to our review of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. There is a fundamental truth from my gaming experience while playing Zelda the Ocarina of Time, and that is this: I loved every single moment playing this game, ever since its starting out part where you start in the house of a treehouse, all the way to the part at the end of the game where I slide my sword down a beast's throat.
Gay!
Some people will do anything for a princess, you know. That was the majesty of this game. Virtual magic that this video game had over me back when I was a kid. Regardless of how many times I played it, I always kept coming back for more. Only a few games in history have actually done that to me or made me do that, and they are all from the either 5th or 6th generation. Retro games, if you were, as opposed to the modern ones. The Legend of Zelda series is somewhat universally known to all of the gaming populace by now. From the humble beginnings on the Nintendo Entertainment System, shooting through the Nintendo consoles within the recent Nintendo console, the Nintendo Switch. Not also to mention the handhelds. You gotta love the handhelds. There seems to be a never-ending momentum with each game that tells its own story within the Zelda series. Ocarina of Time for the Nintendo 64 is where I first began my journey of playing these Zelda games. Being introduced to a 3D World Zelda game on a console that is not very much liked or even loved by some people in this world has me thinking, my gain, your loss. I have no regret saying that. Back in the day of watching the nice opening sequence of a nice little story being told, of the world being created and how the Triforce power was introduced, I was already hooked and I wanted more. The colours alone and the way it was executed in the game caught my interest with pure ease. I like colourful things. So being the first Zelda game that I've actually played in my lifetime when I was a little kid, back at the time of playing this game I had no idea, canonically, that the hero that you play as is in fact called Link. But in my eyes, my naming of the hero was the hero. So, in other words, I myself was the hero. And what a hero I was. The beautiful forest-like scenery, with many odd-looking kids who don't age, however, with colourful gems scattered about and colourful fairies buzzing around their heads, carries start off with a family-friendly vibe to it, as do other individual locations throughout this game, such as Lon Lon Ranch, providing a stable-ish
It's a killer! It's a killer!
vibe with caring for horses and cows. And who could forget the Zoro'S Domain, featuring the aquatic fish people of Hyrule, living in the surroundings of water, which of course what the people of Hyrule probably use as their natural source of nourishment in terms of having a drink. not knowing probably that the Zoras obviously have dirty bodies, probably not knowing they probably went to the toilet in the brimming water itself, not to mention the fact that this is probably the equivalent of a well-known social media person actually selling their bathwater, which a lot of simps would actually happily pay for and drink, to my dismay. The visuals are very inviting, of wanting to see more, with its dynamic and smooth locations, providing a mixture of bright and colourful or dark and twisted areas. Realising that this game may not be as cheery as it may seem at very first, this is notable as you do travel to those said dark and twisted places. And no, I am not referring to the fact of its colour grading either, but its ambience, whereas the dungeons are concerned, along with other certain areas that you may find during your quest. The tone of this game was that of a friendly nature to start off with, but then, as I was progressing through the game, I found that I got a little bit of a horror sort of a vibe, unexpectedly, as I was introduced to certain places and enemies in the game. And one of those enemies was were the frightening, zombified sounding re-dead enemies. Words cannot express just how terrified I was when I first laid eyes and ears on these specific persons in Zelda Ocarina of Time back in the day when I was a kid. Also, not to mention that by this time of the day I was actually playing this level at night when I found this specific area with the re-dead in it. Also, not to mention another second place of the creepiest sort of enemies that are in this game, the hands that crawl up on the walls or trying to get you from the top, and they are pretty much known as the Wall Masters. They pretty much scared the life out of me when I very first experienced them, unexpectedly when I died. There is one word that I am grateful for that I can think of that applies to this game, as opposed to just going from dungeon to dungeon and mission to mission, and that word is exploration. Never before have I played this kind of game before where it offered me so much exploration for an N64 game in its vast space. Apart from two other games which are some of the greatest video games ever made, and those games are Banjo-Kazooie and Mario 64. But even they had their limits, considering the fact that one is pretty much based in a castle and the other one is in a witch's lair. The fact that you can explore the Kokiri area, the vast field of Hyrule, and other areas that this game offers you, it felt like it actually added a little bit more fun to the game. A little bit more replay value, if you will, because that's exactly what I got from it when I was actually playing with its vastness. It was exciting to travel from place to place, especially in the unfamiliar territory that I haven't travelled to before really in this game, seeing as where the adventure will take me next. And it was also great and added a little bit more fun and a good experience of finding these places and looking around and seeing what I can do in those specific areas. Interactions with the AI is a huge part of this game too. You'll find yourself pretty much talking to a lot of the folk in different areas that you travel to. This is pretty important too, considering the fact that you'll get asked to complete quests or side quests on your journey. It's nice to have that sort of choice or thing in a game like this. And also, it didn't bother me that the fact that interactions in this game were pretty much all in text based rather than voice recordings and whatnot. So I was happy with that. Along your journey, you will have so many tools and or items to use at your disposal to help you get past certain areas in the game, or to help you defeat certain enemies, or to collect certain things that you may need, as you will need to use specific critical items or weapons, like for specific dungeons and how to complete them, the temples, or in your just general exploration of the game. As you may or may not know, that the items in this game are pretty much locked in two different timelines. So as Kid Link, you'll have the excitement of using kid-friendly sort of items that are in your backpack or item slots. But as Adult Link, you'll pick up more adult-orientated heavy items, or bigger grown-up items that you can actually use as Adult Link, such as the sledgehammer or the bow and arrow, things of that nature. But one of my most favourite items in this game that you can use, whether you're a kid or Adult Link, is in fact the Ocarina itself. because of the amount of songs you learn, you get to play, you get to mess around with. Also, not to mention the power interactions that certain songs have, like for you to travel to different locations throughout the game, getting past trapdoors, messing around with a scarecrow near a lake, calling your horse to you, good old Epona, among witnessing what else it could do. It is truly, for a simple little music instrument, it is vastly fantastic to actually have in a game like this, and I'm really happy that I got to experience it the way I experienced it back in the day. I will say this about the sound and the musical department of the game: it is one of the best I've ever heard for a video game in general, and not just for the N64. The music in this game has just pure finesse. Chef's kiss. Mwah! The soundtracks in this game per dungeon, or even going out on your travels, is just pure quality and provides atmospherical immersion. This is evident in pretty much the first time you go into the Great Deku Tree. The theme is nice and slow and is not too eerie, and it's easy on the ears. When you're in contact with enemies, however, it changes from the current theme you're listening to a more get on your guard sort of feeling with its soundtrack. So you know it's battle time. The sound effects that range from different noises as you cut the shrubs of the grass, slice the enemies, and or using your items in your inventory supply, all supply a fun FX noise that range from different things you get to use. Okay, enough from me for the moment, enough from my tea drinking, full English breakfast eating self. Let's bring in TJ the Gamer from MasterSwordMusic and listen to what he has to say about this game.
Hey everybody, what's up? It's your boy TJ the Gamer, and I want to give a shout out to the doc for having me here today to do this episode. If we're going to talk about The Legend of Zelda, then I'm definitely the person to have here, because the reason my channel is named MasterSwordMusic is from the legendary moment in Ocarina of Time where you place down those 3 spiritual stones and those doors open and there's nothing there but this sword. And this sword is basically like the key to defeating your final enemy and to beat the game. And this sword just became an iconic symbol of the series. And I wanted that iconic symbol to basically represent me and what I do with my video game music and whatnot. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is the game that basically made me a gamer and made me a Legend of Zelda fan at the same time. I mean, before it I had played Link to the Past, but you know, it was a cool game. But that move to 3D really changed the game for me with their Z targeting system and the combat and the absolutely fantastic music, the atmosphere. Like, this game was something special. Like, when you leave the Kokiri Forest for the first time and you see the scope of what you're dealing with, for a game at that time, it was phenomenal. And I don't think no other game in the series has even touched that until Breath of the Wild comes up. When you leave the main island for the first time in Breath of the Wild, is that same kind of feeling that Ocarina of Time gave me when you first step out on the Hyrule field and you see exactly how massive your game world is. It really gives you a sense of adventure. Me personally, I just really learned a lot from the game, like how to be a hero and what it means to be a hero. Is, when you get lost, not to be frustrated, but to keep looking forward, because eventually you'll reach that goal. And in Ocarina of Time, if you don't go through a walkthrough or look everything up, there's a very good chance you could get lost or miss something. It was all about that exploration and figuring things out on your own, and it actually even changed the way I play games in general. Like, now to this day, I don't look up walkthroughs or FAQs or anything for a game the first time I play it. I just play it and try to figure everything out on my own, because Ocarina of Time really put me in that mindset of It's about the adventure. It's about your adventure. And that's why the main protagonist has always been silent, because you are supposed to be him. So it's like your voice is his voice. So like now I have this own vision of what Link is in my head and who he is and what kind of person he is. And I don't know, I could sit here and gush about Ocarina of Time for hours and hours and hours, because it's just such a fantastic game. It changed the landscape of the series and gaming as a whole. Like open world exploration games are now like pretty standard these days now, and I feel like Ocarina of Time was one of the ones that really started to capture that in a different light than anybody else was doing at the time. And of course it changed the scope of the Legend of Zelda series, because every game after it tried to be Ocarina of Time. So it's like, it's such an iconic game. It's such an important part of my childhood, and it just means a lot to me. So, as you guys know, I am a video game musician. So I'm going to do something special and give you guys an exclusive remix. Zoro'S Domain is probably one of my favorite songs from this game, and I did my own interpretation of it. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and thank you again, Doc, for having me here to have this moment to talk about one of my favorite games. You're an awesome creator, and I just really appreciate your support of my channel. And I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to give you guys this remix. So peace out.
The controls for the game were not difficult to learn or to use. However, one of my favourite features for the game regarding the control layout was indeed the Z button or Z button, the trigger button at the back of the N64 control pad, in use for the Z targeting system, as you target one enemy per time. Keeping my eyes on the enemies I was fighting became so much easier while using the Z targeting system, as was using it to turn around to face the way that I wanted to face, so I can see what I was doing, so the camera is in the right place for me to progress. Also, it made the fight that much easier to strafe and or dodge enemies that are willing to attack you. I know that the N64 pad wasn't very much loved by many or liked, but for this game it was playable and it was fine, for me at least. Using the inventory items, holding up to 3 items, not including your sword, for the C button usage was actually pretty cool, as you can prioritise which items you may want to use in those certain C button locations, whether it be C right, C down or C left. It was very useful for your dungeons or your questing time. I found it useful because choosing from if you want to use your ocarina or choosing your bombs to blow up certain walls and things or enemies, or your boomerang or your hook shot or other items that you need at the most important times was actually pretty useful. To this day it still bothers me why the Kokiri children don't age, if you can even call them children, but the thing is, if any adults pass through there, they better be careful not to do anything funny or get too attached to the children in certain ways, otherwise they might find themselves up on the offenders register.
That's a good one. Boy, that sure gets me.
For a video game that was released in 1998 for the Nintendo 64 system, it has a remarkable fondness that has been attached to many fans of the game. Yes, quite a few Zelda releases have been made on other systems since then, on other Nintendo consoles, but for those who grew up with this game, pretty much a lot of times out of 10, this game would usually be in their top 5 list. All in all, Zelda Ocarina of Time is definitely one of the greatest games I have ever played, period. I am rather happy and privileged to have experienced it when I did. Now that I am 5,000 years older, I have really grown to appreciate the game ever more, looking back on it with such fondness as I have. Everything from the gameplay, to the colour dynamic, to the ambience of music, to the amazing soundtracks, to the dungeons, to the vastness, space and exploration, to the finding that extra replay value that I had from it. It's just pure genius of how this game was made. Not just for its time, but for all time. It truly is what I would consider a masterpiece. And ladies and gentlemen, gaming minions across the globe, or for those of you that happily watched the video all the way until the end, thank you very kindly. I cannot thank you enough. That is our review. My review, Doctor Virtual and TJ the Gamer or MasterSwordMusic. I'd like to thank MasterSwordMusic for coming on, for being a part of this amazing game. I cannot thank you enough, man. Thank you very, very much for the soundtrack that you have created for this wonderful review today from Zoro'S Domain. That was absolutely amazing. Again, it's great to have you on. I look forward to having you part of future collaborations in the future. And you know what, I look forward to doing this more with many other YouTubers who are as passionate about games as I am. So I look forward to meeting other content creators and you know, that sort of thing, trying to find out other people out there and whatnot. But you know what, I'm happy that you guys and TJ himself has actually had a good time with this game. And for those of you that played it, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I am Dr. Virtual, the Gaming Doctor. May retro gaming live on. And make sure you stay safe and you have a great day, okay? I'll see you soon, fellow gaming minions. Take care of yourselves.
Hey, once again, I just want to say thank you, Doc, for giving me the opportunity to be a part of this episode. It really means a lot to me, and I really appreciate the support you've given me. So, just wanted to share that. Ocarina of Time, to me, is one of the greatest games ever made. So, when it comes to my top 10, Ocarina of Time is usually in the top 5, if not number 1. Very few games to me can really top the feel and nostalgia and gameplay and graphics and music that Ocarina of Time has. Like, it's just a classic. And like 20-30 years from now, I'm probably still going to feel the same exact way about this game, and whereas other games that have come up I'll probably totally forget about. Like, Ocarina of Time is just Ocarina of Time. What else can be said about it but the fact that it's just a great game? Like, the package is just amazing, and it was worth every dollar I spent on it. And if I don't get an HD remake on the Switch soon, I might hurt somebody.
Hello gaming minions, thank you for watching today's video. Fancy owning some awesome Doctor Virtual merch? Then please hop on over to the site's store, the link will be in the description, and thank you ever so much for your kind support.